New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. And I am still a grief coach, a religious science practitioner, a registered nurse, and a soul collage facilitator. And oh, I love that expression. I'm just like you, another human being on the planet here at this really auspicious time. So thank you for joining me today. If today is your first time joining, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you dialed in, and I want you to know that you have come to the right place to start your recovery of healing from grief. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome, welcome. I'm honored to have you back again. So I say to both the first timers, the old timers, make this hour about you. Make this hour for you. Join the conversation. Drop a comment in the comment box. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question or if there's a situation or concern you'd like us to address, we are here. We are here for you. And so with that said, I know it is with a heavy heart and sadness that so many people are feeling today, are in mourning for the loss of our beautiful Tina Turner, who made her transition last week. Such an outpouring of love from so many people. I've received texts and emails to say, oh, Bonnie, have you heard that Tina Turner made her transition? And then they go on to share their stories around Tina Turner. And yes, she had great music. Oh my gosh, what an icon. But not only her music, the story of her life touched so many people, you know, escaping an abusive marriage and going on to be truly successful on her own and standing on her own. Just a testament for so many of us. So many of her fans were touched equally by her music and even more so by her life story. So I just want to take a minute to honor Tina Turner in my own way and share in with me with that. For Tina Turner, I light this candle, honoring her life. I know that Tina Turner was a devout Buddhist and chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo every day. And I too myself have chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for the last 30-something years. So what I want to say is I offer this candle to symbolize the light that Tina Turner shone on the world and still continues to shine in her transition. And I just offer this Buddhist chant for her. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you, Tina, for all that you've given us and for all that you will continue to give. And that chant is, the translation is devotion to the mystic law of cause and effect through sound. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to honor her and honor Tina in whatever way feels natural and right for you. When we have an icon such as Tina Turner that makes their transition, it puts us all into what's called a collective grief, that we're all simultaneously sharing and feeling that loss. And the wonderful part of having a collective grief, we get to talk to people about it. We all have a story that we can tell about Tina Turner, knowing her, or if you didn't know her. There was one, everyone knows, her R&B music and queen of rock and roll, but what I was gonna say, give a listen to, there's a CD and it's called Beyond the Children. And it's teaching children to pray. It's beautiful music, and she's a part. That's her production. So thank you. And I was going to say, talking about collective grief, that we do get to share with each other our thoughts and memories. And we can also do things. We can start a fund in the name of Tina Turner, supporting some organization that she loved and held dear. If you don't, if that doesn't speak to you, that's okay. What you can do is you can put on some of her music and listen to it. You can. There was one person I know that dressed up like Tina Turner, put on their favorite concert shirt. But do whatever whatever feels right in your heart to do. Even lighting a candle, that simple, can really help you with tapping into what you feel around the grief of the loss of Tina Turner. So I just thank you. Thank you for listening and just knowing that it is times like this that we find comfort being with family and friends. So thank you, Tina Turner. So our show today is just perfect coming on the heels of a loss like that. Today, our show is about love. And we had a couple working themes, and I was going to say the power of love to heal, and also loving our way through grief, loving the healing power of love, loving our way through grief. And we have an expert here on love. I couldn't think of another person that can speak to love the way my guest speaks to love. And my guest today, I'm so honored to have Krista McAtee. And she's a religious science practitioner, and she's the CEO of Evolutionary Love, which teaches that every action is an act of love or a call for love. And I get to read bios when I have guests, but this is a bio that really touched me. I just want you to sit back, maybe close your eyes just for a minute, and just take in her bio. So, Krista's 25-year journey through education has been about teaching as an act of love. In her roles as an educator in preschool, Spanish dual immersion elementary schools, middle school, high, and as a mathematics method professor, math and social justice coach, a parent and grandparent, even though she doesn't look it, come from is always love. She reminds those around her that every action is an act of love or a call for love, and that we are either intentionally acting from a place of love or reacting from a place of conditioning. Yes, take that in. She teaches that love is the only power that can resolve all that ails our society. And we do have a laundry list, don't we? Racism, white supremacy, patriarchy, colonizationism, hatred, and fear are simply symptoms of the absence of understanding and recognition of the love that we are. Her work in the world is practicing, teaching, and being love because love is our innate natural state. Krista creates and facilitates communities where we can recognize the love that we are and learn to come from love in all of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. When we better learn our true nature, love, all the ways we have been conditioned to practice separation, hierarchies, fear, etc., will simply melt away. So many of our great leaders have known what Martin Luther King Jr., what Dr. Martin Luther King knew so clearly, and that is, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. When the goal of education in our country is to be and to practice love in everything we do, we will have the educational system and the society of our dreams. So thank you so much, Krista, for that beautiful bio. And more importantly, thank you, Krista, for being you. And if we can bring Krista on, Joe, that would just be fantastic. Hello, Krista. Thank you so, so very much.
Thank you.
For your big yes to being here today. My heart is just overflowing with love for you.
Anytime Bonnie says, do this, I'm in. I'm all in. Whatever it is, Bonnie, you ask, I'm there.
Oh my gosh, Krista, just reading your bio, and it is so you when it talks about love. You're just the embodiment of love. And Krista and I both had a teacher in our practitioner training, a minister, Reverend Jeffrey Anderson, that said, I think he put us in the both of that same bag, Krista, that we were just hearts on wheels, our hearts with legs. And that is Krista, a heart with long legs and just shining that beautiful light of love wherever she goes. And Krista, just reading your bio, it's just so moved by your ability to really tap into the deeper essence of love and transferring it over into so many areas. Even when you talk about our social justice system, I just want to ask you, Krista, how did you come to this realization around love?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lifelong process, I think. And, I was thinking, it's kind of been a coming out experience for me. Like, in our society, we don't talk about love that much. And I feel like as a little one, I would express love, and people just didn't know how to receive or handle that a lot of the time. And so it's a busy time. And actually, when you asked me that this time, I'm thinking back to my second grade teacher. He was a huge impetus for my my passion about creating belonging. I wasn't using the word love at that time, but I had this second grade teacher who was outed as a gay man in the local newspaper, and a lot of people were moving their kids out of his class. And my mom moved me into his class as a statement of solidarity. And, as a second grader, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about that piece. I just knew my classroom was disrupted and I was moved into this new class. And he shared pictures and videos and, photo books of the civil rights movement and Jim Crow laws. And I came home crying day after day after day. And my mom, said I was so mad at her. Why didn't you tell me this happened in the world? And made a commitment at 7 that I was trying to do whatever I could to make spaces a place where everyone felt like they belonged.
Hmm.
And I started learning Spanish then as a 7-year-old, and that's been my journey. And I, always about creating spaces where, especially folks who are often told they don't belong, see a space for them. And and it's morphed and changed, and I've got more firmly in touch with love as this power over the time. And like you said, Jeff Anderson would say, the being informs the doing, right? And
yes,
if we're talking about changing how we do things in the world, we have to start with how we be. And if we be love, which I believe is our innate nature, it's who we are. If we allow that love that we are to flow through us, then the rest of it is perfect. The rest of it is just bliss and ease and joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, Krista, I just think that is so, such a touching experience that you shared about your mom. She was truly what we called an evolved and enlightened soul. That's all I can say to go against what would have been the norm at that time.
Right.
And I was going to say, for myself, though, we have a comment there from Whitefire Faulkner. Wow, Krista, very cool of your mom and you at 7 years old. Love is the only power. Oh, thank you so much, Whitefire. That was just what I was saying. Your mom, to be that focal point to teach you about love. My own experience with love, when I think back to it, Chris, you're talking about being in, 2nd grade and having that happen. I think when I first quote unquote talked about love, it's like, that boy and girl kind of thing, boys and girls. And that's the kind of love that I was aware of. Yeah. And I don't even think at 7 I was aware of that love at 7. So it sounds like, do you feel, Krista, that we all come into this? Well, I'll keep it in the eye. I feel that we all come in with certain characteristics that are already heightened.
Oh yeah.
When we come in, would you say love was one of yours, or that's something you had to learn along the way, or you came in and got fine-tuned?
That's a really good question. I feel like love is who we all are, and I think it also was fine-tuned for me. And I think so many times there are experiences in our life that make us forget that our truth, and also the goodness of, or the light, the fullness, the wholeness of those people around us. I think we're trained in this in our culture to see something different. But like having my grandbaby, I see him knowing he's loved, absolutely at 3, he knows it through and through. And I think it's true of all littles. Like they ask to be held and cared for and fed and loved, and they know unequivocally that they should have that. Whether or not they get it is a whole other story. And that's part of our conditioning and training of something else, right?
Of something else, yes. I love what you said about children, or your little grandbaby. Babies are just that. It feels to me that they're just that. I feel that that's the draw for babies. When you walk down the street, even a stranger's baby, you're like, oh, I think it reminds us of that, of our pure essence. Yeah. That's what you said. That is our essence. And being a mature woman, reading different things and coming into my own feeling around love. I'm reading the book, I pretty much shared that with you, Teach Love. It's the 12 principles of attitudinal healing. Yeah. And that's the first principle, is that we are love. Yeah. That our true essence is love. And do you think that gets shared early in life? Do you think we find out later? What's your experience about, about that our true essence is love?
I don't think it's shared. I don't think it's shared very much. And I think that's why, when you were talking about, only talking about like the boy girl kind of love, I remember as a kiddo, little writing notes to everyone, or pictures and, like just sharing love everywhere I went. And I just had this need to express how much I loved whoever I saw, and not always did people know how, it was uncomfortable. And I'll say,
yes,
actually maybe it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I had this dear friend that became my adopted sister, and we were hiking one time, and she said, when you say I love you, what do you expect back?
Oh, wow.
And I said, nothing. And she says, oh, okay. And I realize, that's another example of, I'm expressive. I share love, and not everybody knows for so many different reasons. And I think I think littles, I taught preschool and first grade, and they express love. Like it just pours from them, and they're constantly shown that, maybe you shouldn't be this loving in this way, or maybe you shouldn't, and I think we tend to hold back. And like when you said, how did I come to this place? I think it's been an evolution, and, especially in education, to be able to talk about love, I'm doing math teaching as an act of love, science and math teaching as an act of love. That is a language that is not used a lot in math education, and I think it works for me for all the ways wherever we show up, whether it's teaching or walking down the street or driving on the freeway or whatever. If we're seeing love, then whatever action comes out of that is inspired by that. It comes from love.
Yes. Wow, Krista, two things pop up, and it's like, us getting together to talk about love. The first one that came up, and then I'll come back to my second question. There was an old movie, and you may be too young to remember it. If you don't, it's okay. Can't even remember. But anyway, the line in that movie was, love is never having to say you're sorry. There was, oh gosh, I wish it'll come back to me. But when you hear something like that, being this, embodiment of love, being this entity, this being of love, when you hear that said, because at that time it was a big deal. Oh, love means never having to say you're sorry. How does that get hold of you?
Yeah, for me, I think being human, we're gonna do things that hurt those we love. And I think actually the mending of any kind of hurt is more powerful and more important than the avoiding hurting. I think we hurt people all the time. We don't, unintentionally. And I think recognizing that and mending that is an act of love. Saying I'm sorry is an act of love. Saying that's absolutely was not my intention. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. And see, for me, it was like, wow, love is, oh my gosh, not just saying you're sorry, but showing it, feeling it, saying this is, yes, I love you. And as you said, we are human and we do hurt people unintentionally. So I just felt like, but at that time, I think people were not talking about love. And I think it was the first time that phrase got used in a way to say, oh, let's bring love into our conversation. Let's bring love into our lives. And how are we going to hold it? So that just popped into my head when you were talking about love. But I would love, Krista, for you to share more on, I know teaching is just your passion all burners or alive. It's your jam. So talk to us about teaching as love, teaching as an act of love, how Krista holds that teaching as an act of love.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like anything, any job, you know, the being informs the doing. So in teaching, there's so many things about our systems and the ways we've learned to be together that are devoid of love. And we kind of do those unconditional. I mean, we do them without thinking. You know, we just we're programmed and we do those things. So I was thinking of early, because we were talking about early childhood stuff. I was thinking of, for example, a moment when in kindergarten, my teacher rewarded me, pulled me up in front of the class for something I had done, and gave me a cookie in front of everybody and said, you know, she did this the right way and all that stuff. And I remember that feeling like just a knot in my stomach and so uncomfortable because I was like pulled apart from my community, my you know, I was, you know, this idea of separation, right?
Yes.
Using me as an example in that particular case, not oftentimes I was not the example, but in that case I was, and actually being the positive example felt horrible to me because of separation, and which to me, we're one, you know, we're one. How do we have oneness? And oneness and love are, you know, a powerful, you know, they go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
So, you know, what I'm doing right now is we're coming together with math and science teachers and other teachers, and we're sharing videos of our teaching, and we're saying, looking for evidence of love. We're saying, oh, when you did this, it was an example of practicing love because, and we filmed like, and then we talk about, well, what could be more loving? You know, maybe if you posed this, maybe if you created more time for students to think and write down their ideas before they shared in the whole class, that would be an act of love. You know, so we're just beginning because this is not a, you know, common conversation in education. And the teachers are talking about what assessing student learning as an act of love. You know, tests are always so traumatizing for kiddos.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Right. For kiddos, how about adults? Right. But I'm just like, you can imagine.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we're trying to imagine something different. What would it be to, because it's important for us as teachers to know what students know and can do, right? What would it, how could we think about assessing student understanding as an act of love? Like that's so different than the way we've been conditioned. So we're playing around with it because I think, you know we get better at whatever we practice, right? The more we practice something. And so for me, practicing love is the most important thing. If I'm practicing, that's the one thing I want to get better at. I want to get better at being love, practicing love, sharing from a place of love, looking through a lens of love.
And Krista, and I'm going to kind of bring it to our whole, the fact that this is a show about grief.
Yeah.
It is a show about love. And I hear your passion. I can feel the love that you have for education. So how do you move through a system that really does not support what you're so passionate about? How do you move through that system until the change happens that you want to see? Because I know it will happen. But Ayala Van Zandt had a book that said, but in the meantime, what do? You looked up maybe brokenheartedness of, wow, you know, I really wanted this to be more loving, but the system is not supporting me in doing that.
Yeah.
And that can be a grief in itself, that you grieve the loss of that dream that you had as education being love and active love. So
I think of so many things when you ask that question. There are so many parts. I think that this is a paradigm shift that's huge, and that takes time. And so one piece is honoring that time that it takes, and being in allowing the grief is absolutely crucial, right? Allowing and holding ourselves and each other in that grief is required. I also think when I see examples of kind of the opposite of that, like so much is happening in our world that is like heartbreaking, right? School shootings, and there's so much happening that is absolutely heartbreaking. And so there's two pieces for me: honoring that, and then I love what Valerie Kaur, she started the revolutionary love project.
Revolutionary love.
See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. She talks about how when transition happens, if you think about birthing and or dying, contractions happen that are bigger and more painful as we get closer to the transition. And so, like we have to push and breathe. And when I see those contractions, those things that are really hard to hold, if I can remember, this too is a part of a transition, the birthing, the dying of something, white supremacy, hierarchy, separation, all that needs to die, and death is painful and hard. We push and breathe through it, so that we can be around still for the birthing of something new.
Yes. And I can so feel that. I too, had a profession of being a registered nurse and wanting to bring that love and care to each patient, but the system wasn't supporting us then. It was hurry up, the next patient. Why is your patient still here? They should be discharged. They should be home, or get them transferred to the floor. God forbid if they did die, hurry and get to the morgue so that you can get the next one. And it is when we come into professions where we bring our whole heart, that knowing that the system may not always support that.
Right.
And not saying to give up on your dreams or hopes of change.
Right.
The way I learned to hold it, it's like, yes, I'm in this big jungle and I want to care for these two sweet little patients. What I would just go back to is like, I'm not getting the support that I need. What can I bring to this patient right now? What can I bring to this patient right now?
Yeah.
And so anyway,
no, go ahead. Are you finished? I love that. What can I do? What
can I do? Yeah. Because it's so easy to fall into, I don't have time to give you that glass of water because it's like, breathe. I would just breathe, be in that moment, breathe and be in that space. Being a critical care nurse, there were like true life or death emergencies, but breathing and staying present, and what can I offer right now? What can I do in this moment that will alleviate suffering? So I just offered that because I know there are other people out here that are listening, Krista, that have careers that they went into with, a full heart open.
Right.
So wanting to offer.
Yeah. Yes. I appreciate that too. And Bonnie, you've been such a part of my path in how I hold this work. And I think, it's been a few years now. We've had this conversation about how I've always felt like my role in education was to fix it. I got to fix it. I'm fighting trying to make it better. And I'm working so hard to fix it. And at some point I realized that I was putting Band-Aids on the Titanic, and this ship needs to sink. It needs to sink. As it is, that separates people and values some people and dehumanizes others. It needs to sink. And so I reframed my way of being in education to being a doula for the dying of this way of being.
Oh, I love that. I
The
love
birthing
that.
of something new, and the birthing of something new. So when you say what's mine to bring is just like honoring, seeing and holding us in our grieving of this way of being, the dying of kind of what we know, what we've lived, that this paradigm needs to die, and it's painful and it's hard. And so if I can be a doula instead of try to fix it, there's some there's some spaciousness in there. There's some honoring, you and I have had so many conversations about death, honoring that things die, and systems die, and ways of being in the world die. And can we hold each other through it? Can we support each other?
Yes. Oh my goodness, Krista, when you talked about being a doula to this dying paradigm, that's the same that I hold for the grief, being a doula for grief, that you've got to feel it. You've got to feel it to heal it. This death has to happen. What is that saying is that the same consciousness that created the problem cannot be the same consciousness that brings about the solution, that brings about what it is that we want to see. Yeah. So pain is a part of the process. Yeah. That pain, but knowing that the pain is the sign that yes, something is needed, something is shifting. Just like when you have a pain in the body, you got to pay attention to it. Something. Right. It's saying, "Ooh, I need some attention here. Something needs to shift. Something needs to change."
Right. And you make me think of so many things. I think it's Audre Lorde, "The Master's Tools." That's the quote that you somewhere, right? Right.
Right.
I think about one of the things that I'm learning a lot about right now is, and we've talked about this because you're also a role model for me in this, is embodiment practices.
That's true. That's true.
And we have in education and in our society, we spend so much time and focus on brain and our mind, but what we're talking about today is being love, and part of this course is around somatic attachment healing, and it's relationship, right, and relationship with self, and relationship with an individual or groups or a system. Also, it's about relationship, and I'm really loving this paradigm shift in relationship model to this doing fixing paradigm on one hand, and
fixing,
and a being allowing paradigm. And what that being allowing paradigm is about is recognizing that change is part of the natural flow. Change is going to happen. And if we can create a space where we just hold each other, where we support it, change will unfold. And
yeah. Oh, Krista, I love the analogy that you did with the closed fist. So I'd love, maybe just take us through that. And then there's some comments that we will get to. Thank all the listeners for tuning in. We'll do this and then we'll get to the comments, okay?
We're going to invite listeners to try a little activity.
Yes. Participate in this little activity.
So make a fist with one hand and hold the fist tight. I'm not so tight that it hurts you, but just keep your fist. And then with your other hand, you're going to try to pry open your fist. And as you do this, you're going to notice what happens in your body. What happens in the fist as you try to pry open, and what's happening to the prying hand. What's happening all over your body, just noticing it. And then keep the fist and take your other hand and just hold the fist. Just hold it. And notice what happens in the body. And, you could even, just rub the fist a bit. Notice what happens.
Wow.
In the fist, in the body.
Feels like an involuntary cooperation of everything. Everything relaxed.
Yeah. So just noticing the difference between this kind of prying relationship.
Yeah.
What's happening in the relationship between the two hands in both different ways of being.
Just holding that.
Oh, I'm thinking this metaphor, this practice is such a metaphor for me about how I see and hold anything, everything. Right? How I hold that part of me that's saying, "Oh, I should be done grieving now. How come I'm still upset about this thing?"
Yes.
Pushing myself to be different.
Holding.
Oh,
Holding.
gosh, I'm tender there.
Yeah.
And honoring and allowing.
Yes. Oh, Krista, that is so beautiful, and especially as related to grief. And so many people come to me to say, "Why aren't I over this? I did all the breathing exercises. I did all the journaling. I was writing, and I'm still in grief."
Yeah.
And it's back to allow yourself to grieve. Treat yourself like a gentle, sweet little newborn.
Yeah.
Just holding that.
Yeah.
I think this is why I love this exercise so much, because it so speaks to that so much happens with the allowing of it.
Right.
It reminds me of when I tell people that whatever emotions come, they come to pass. It's only when we go, "Oh, I can't feel that right now. I can't, not that it stays." But when we say, "Wow, I am feeling so super sad today. I really miss my old house with the bed that I'd come home and just lay on and just be." When I allow myself to go there, it passes through.
Yeah.
Then I'm back to, "Oh yeah, I've got the other bed now, and it has its fine points too."
Right.
So just that, not so much resistance and crying and pushing.
Yeah.
Crying and pushing. Okay, so now we're going to go to Joe. If you could put back up Whitefire's. She says, "I am singing the song right now." Oh, wait a minute, Joe. Way back, a few back. I have Whitefire. Wow, Chris. Okay, there we go. I'm singing the song right now, and whatever song that was, I'm singing it too. It was a while ago in our conversation. We have Celeste, who's grateful to be here. Challenges with audio. Yes, that happens with our wonderful technology. As wonderful as it is that allows me to be in Mexico and Krista to be in California, Joe to be in Florida, sometimes we get a little glitch with the audio.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Rebecca. Do you see? She said the movie is Love Story. Does that ring a bell, Krista?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you, audience, for helping out. And Celeste says, such a good topic today on Memorial Day. Love of country. A country where some people have a hard time practicing this.
Right. Yeah.
And what I say to that, Celeste, and not to do any spiritual bypasses and all those things, but as Gandhi says, being the change that you want to see in the world. What is that? Never look at the ones that are perpetrating the crimes or causing the problem. Look at those that are helping. So
and I think it goes back to what we were saying, like how do we honor like ourselves when we have a hard time? Because we all I have a hard time practicing love sometimes in certain situations, or you know.
Yeah. Oh,
if I'm forcing myself to be different, I'm not sure that that's the work. I think the work is holding each other in however we show up, you know, and that's hard work. That's really hard work.
Yes. Oh, and Krista, I want to add this, because we're talking about being love, and I can be just gushing with love, but I can have a situation or a person that causes me to really constrict.
Yeah.
And that gets my attention. It's like, wow. Honoring that, even paying attention to where I can constrict.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if I can constrict when I go to that place of, oh, they should be more loving, they should be doing that. When I can constrict, then maybe I can have an honest dialogue, some communication with those people that I have labeled unloving. So I'm just saying, I see it as a teaching moment, a deeper insight moment into myself, another layer of me.
Well, and this is the thing we talked about before. Oh, hurt people, right?
Ooh, that's your mom, right? Yes.
Yeah. Hurt people. And so it's not always easy to see people who are showing up in ways that are hurtful.
Yes, right, Krista.
And I believe in my core that people who understand love, who feel loved, who know they're lovable, aren't hurtful to other people.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Okay, hold that thought. Hold that thought. I'm going to read Whitefire's comment. Oh, being informs the doing. I often forget that I am love being in the midst of doing from my mind. Then there is loss of the very connection to the help, teach, to be a friend, build friendships and community, do politics. Being love conquers the how-tos. Being present is now possible. Being love means I am nowhere else. Thank you, Krista. Oh, thank you, Whitefire, for that. Thank you for your wise woman wisdom and for sharing it with us. That itself is an act of love, to share that wisdom with us. And a last comment from Whitefire. The fist is the trying to do and the separation. The holding the fist is connection. Yes. Whitefire is going to be our next guest, Krista. Whitefire, you're invited to come on. Your doula for grief. We can have we can have a little tag team here. And you come share your wise woman wisdom, because that's what makes programs like this so important, that we get to share the wisdom with each other, because that's how we learn. We're very social creatures. Bell Hooks says it best, that we can't heal in isolation. We can't heal in isolation. So we need the Whitefires and Celeste out there. And we need the Bonnings and we need the Kristas, because we cannot heal in isolation. And we that are lending our voices. So, yeah.
Bonnie, it makes me think of when you were talking, about honoring Tina Turner. It's the interbeingness, like how much these these people who we've known and we've mourned, bell hooks too.
Oh, yes.
That was part of us. They're a part of us. Like those songs, the music, the wisdom live in us.
Yes, that they continue to live on with us.
Yeah.
What is that? That when a tree dies in the forest, it gives off the nutrients for the other trees to continue and grow. So that's what the Tina Turners, the bell hooks, have done for us. They're giving us more to grow on, more energy to grow fuller.
Yes.
And that I just wanted to throw in this David Kessler quote, since we were talking back to Tina Turner, but just talking about his quote is that, especially when someone makes a transition, his quote is that we knew how to love them in their presence. Mm. Now we must learn to love them in their absence. And I just thought that was so beautiful. That we can, love never dies. Love never dies. There's the physical transition, but emotionally, spiritually, we continue to love. Yeah. It does not stop. It does not. And I was going to say Whitefire's last comment was very cool. She's agreed to be a host. I mean, she's agreed to be a guest on the show. And Whitefire, I will get your contact information from Krista. So with that said, Krista, I just love how we're talking about the whole death of educational systems as we know it. And I know, since I've been a part of your journey, I know part of your history. And Krista is one of those people that's really fortunate to be able to mentor new teachers and to teach teachers. And so coming from what you know now, Krista, about that, I was going to say a little bit of give and take and back and forth, that wanting to teach in a certain way and not being able to have that supported. What would you say to those teachers now that you're mentoring? What would you say to young people that are entering and saying, I want to be a teacher?
Right.
Yes. What words of wisdom would you have for them about loving what you're doing?
Yeah, that's such a big question, Bonnie. I mean, I teach elementary math methods, like you mentioned earlier, and I think about, if I believe in, for example, I believe agencies, like students and teachers having power in showing up in the ways that are in alignment with themselves and that are, demonstrating who they are in the world, like being ourselves. And so many things in our system take away agency. You have to do this paper and this paper and this paper, and you have to, learn in this way, and you have to express yourself in these ways. And I still grapple. Yes. And I'll tell you, I had the gift of going to see 5 of my previous 1st and 5th grade students on Tuesday. I don't think I told you about this. Yeah, so they were in my class in 1st and 5th grade, and now 2 of them are teaching 2nd grade. One of them's teaching kindergarten. One of them is a full inclusion aide with an autistic student, and one of them is the school nurse, all at the school where I taught them.
Wow.
And I to be there and to witness them and the ways that they honor kiddos and they listen to kiddos and they give kiddos space to express in the ways that that are authentic to them. It's so beautiful to watch, and the system, it's really a challenge. There's this great article called "Driving with the Brakes On," and how it's trying to do practices in a system that is built for something else. That's what we're doing. We're driving with the brakes on, and so, gosh, my advice, maybe to myself more than anything, is to be myself, to be themselves unapologetically, and to notice, like you were saying, what tenses me up, and how do I hold that part of me? How do I honor that part of me? How do I stand firmly in the things I won't do because they're harmful to kids?
Yes.
Regardless of what the system asks me to do, like that's a big challenge to stay in alignment and honoring self in a system that is pushing us to do things that are outside of our values.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. To be present, to honor, to be myself unapologetically. That's the self.
That is beautiful, Krista. That is beautiful. And when I asked you that question, I asked myself that question. What, what is that? The advice that you give someone else is advice you need to take for yourself. The questions that I ask my guests is the question I need to ask Bonnie. And I just thinking about being a nurse, in nursing or healthcare professions in general, during the great resignation of 2021, it was healthcare workers that left. So I know how difficult that can be. I know how difficult that can be to try to give 100% and feeling like they need another 100% that I don't have. It's like I'm giving it all. I've given it all. I'm hemorrhaging 100% caring. And so what I offer to anyone that wants to go into healthcare, be a nurse, be a nurse, be a nurse, be a nurse, 100% nurse. And know that in caring, the first person that you need to take care of is you. You cannot give from what you don't have. In our philosophy here, we say giving from your excess and not from your deficit. And I would say before you start your day, whatever type of nursing you're doing, take 10 minutes in the morning just for you. Love you up. Love yourself up for those 10 minutes. And I can guarantee you that love will go throughout the day. So that would be my advice to our young people. And I don't want to just say young people, to our older people. I was in nursing school, and I went to nursing school with a woman that was 65. And so it's anybody that wants to be in this work, go ahead and do it and give it 100%, but make sure you give to you 100%. So, Krista, I know we have some contact information for you because I want to ask you, Krista, what you're doing in the world. I know you have some workshops and that kind of thing coming up. And so, yes, what are you doing in the world, Krista? And this is where you can find Krista. She is the CEO of Evolutionary Love at Gmail. So, Krista, what are you doing and how can we find you and where?
Well, two really fun, exciting things that are coming up. I've got, all of my work is about teaching as an act of love. But one thing I'm doing is in Oaxaca at the end of June, we're taking a group of volunteers to work with indigenous women to build a temazcal. And these are women who are working to maintain pre-Columbian language, culture, traditions, and spiritual practices. And so with a nonprofit organization called Seeds of Learning, I'm bringing a group down there, and we're going to help build a temazcal, which is like a center for ritual and ceremony.
Oh, Krista, beautiful.
And then Bonnie and I will both be presenting in Chapala at the Conference of the Americas, La Conferencia de las Américas.
Yes.
My workshop is on radical self-love, which is what you're saying, Bonnie. Like, you have to love yourself first. And radical self-love is is the most
Yeah.
passion. Absolutely. We have to take care of ourselves fully and 100% in order
Yes.
to to also give people the vision that this is possible, that I can take care of myself and honor myself and be myself in nursing or teaching or whatever the field is, right? In helping fields, especially, that ask us to give our whole hearts. We got to protect our own hearts first.
Yes, so that our heart stays full and stays fully engaged.
Yeah.
Oh, Krista, I can't wait. I can't believe the time has gone by so fast. We're going to have a part 2. I told you to bring another blouse so that you could switch clothes and we can continue for part 2. But we're going to end here. If you want to know more, you can just, you can find me, Bonnie Gonzalez, at yourdoulaforgrief.com. Just yourdoulaforgrief.com will take you there. And I would just love to hear from you, send an email, and just continue to watch and share this with your friends. Share whatever you've gotten from this program today. Share it with a friend. That is an act of love when you share with someone good news. So thank you so much. I'm Bonnie Gonzalez, grief coach. I am here. I will see you next time. Krista, love you. Thank you, and thank you for my guest. All righty. Thank you to my guest and to the audience. Ciao. I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.